another Bolivian girl who's a very active woman and extremely smart woman as well. And I think the problem was that everybody in Bolivia was trying to hold the power within the power of the central government and the governor of the city of La Paz, and the disaster was so huge, but for some reason it wasn't being called for a red emergency. So this is how we decided that's the reason why, because the whole government wasn't working all together. We decided to work with the mayor of La Paz and go from there, because it was basically his area and his responsibility. We decided to work with him and the different NGOs and create all these different movements with also independent organizations and in the private sector, private investors, business owners, and just youth groups to really help out and create a plan to help out the victims of the landslides.
So when you wanted to make a difference, were there people who tried to discourage you from it?
Oh yeah, of course, everybody, that's the first thing that usually happens. And, they go, first is Bolivia, it's going to be impossible, there's so much things, nobody wants to help. When I was getting together with the different NGOs, they were telling me how discouraged they were because they were trying to really help, and for some reason there wasn't an organized way of putting together an actual plan to help out not only the victims, but the actual situation, because you have to understand that it was basically this, it was as if 8 soccer fields were completely wiped out. So there were 5,000 families that were affected. And it wasn't only these people that lost their homes and everything they owned, but you actually had these people in the center of the city of Bolivia. And they are in the urban area, not in the rural area. So it's not like they could expand it. So the one thing that was, I think, really encouraging was the actual discourage that there was in everybody else. So it kind of gave me more strength to create the initiative of Una La Paz. So by creating Una La Paz, it was the kind of proof for all of us, non-profit organizations, including Carla Ortiz, UNICEF, United Nations, Save the Children, and etc., so many of them that they're all so big, to kind of go humble in our mission and really act as a non-profit to help. And it was this discouragement that actually encouraged all of us, and ultimately we raised close to $2 million, and we built all the transitory homes and took care of all the victims. Today there's not one victim in a tent in Bolivia, which I think is the response of just understanding that when you believe something so strongly, you have to pursue it with not even looking back or stopping for a second.
How did you plan to go make a difference when they tried to discourage you from the beginning?
How did I what? I'm sorry?
To make a difference, to make people want to follow you.
Well, I think that it's something. I think optimism is something that is as contagious as pessimism. So when you are an optimist and you are a positive person, and you really truly trust what you believe and your concept and your initiative and your feelings, it is so strong that it's going to be impossible to not contage it to the rest of the people. So basically at the beginning it was, I don't think so. When we had our meeting with the NGOs, it was very doubting the ambience and the situation. But when we finished the meeting, it was beautiful because everybody wanted to come in. And it's just, I think making the difference is just separating yourself from the general idea of limitations. So the thing is that we've been raised in the world in general, not only in Bolivia, everywhere in the world, that things are hard, and it's true, things are very tough and they're very hard. And when things get harder, and you have a disaster like the landslides that were so major in Bolivia, things seem to be worse, and you get automatically even more discouraged. So the thing that is going to inspire is not just becoming a leader, it's believing it so much that people look at you and they believe it because you believe it so much, and then you start creating this chain. And there was this beautiful group that was called Ayuda La Paz, Help La Paz. There was a group of only young guys from 17 to 27 years old, and they've already opened this page in the internet, and a lot of people from Bolivianos that are outside Bolivia, in United States or Switzerland, Sweden, Spain, were able to kind of like help out a little bit. And this was kind of the thing that that also helped the idea put together and grow it together, because when they saw me, they said, oh my gosh, there's another crazy girl like us. And then there were all these other movements like Carros de Fuego. They are just children from university and from high school that joined together, and they were helping us take the pamphlets and inviting people to the concert, because as you know, we organized a concert as well where we were able to put together all the artists, the most important artists of Bolivia, which has never been done for just an objective of helping people. And it's beautiful. When you have one, it's like dominoes, and it's real. It just, everything falls into place.
Can you tell us when you became politically aware?
Politically aware?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think well, you know, I was I was born in the late 70s, and I still saw when I was little, because I lived in Sucre the first years of my life. I was able to see still the result of the difficult moment we had after the dictatorship, and when there wasn't bread, there wasn't, and it was care. I don't know how you say it in English. Toque de queda, curfew, I think it's called, that you have to be home by some time because the government determines you cannot have parties and things like these, social meetings. And I remember it was called toque de queda, and I remember my dad was he was a banker, and he was the president of the bank, and I remember they used to have sometimes meetings in the house. And I remember when midnight will come, everybody had to turn off the lights, and they had to go underneath the couches. This was probably, I don't know, 82, 81. I was a baby, you know. I don't know, maybe I was 2 years old, and I remember I was under the couch with them. Sometimes I would wake up, and I remember everybody was talking about politics, and it's crazy, because I think in third world countries, you become aware of politics since you are very little. Just as I think at this time with Al Qaeda and all the problems with Iraq, Iran, and the whole thing with the Gulf. There were, I think, kids also in the United States are very aware of politics and the problems of war and all these things.
Do any of the disasters that you help out, have you ever personally gone to one of them?
Oh, absolutely. There were so many camps, so many refugee camps, and I visited the first time we came with Daniela. The first thing we did is hold meetings with people from Red Cross, with the different NGOs, as I mentioned before, with the mayor of the city of La Paz, and then we didn't sleep for 7 days. We were sleeping basically only 1 hour. We were holding our meetings, and we visit every single refugee camp, every single camp. We talked with so many of the victims. We did not stop. We talked with the Catholic Church, because they were doing a beautiful job going one by one, because the disasters were not only in La Paz. There was the major disaster because of the landslides, but the floods were absolutely crazy. We had a quarter of the country completely flooded. and it was absolutely insane that we were not declared a red emergency, and that